Tom Brady was on the shop, and during that interview, during that talk, he was asked about this. There was this discussion about this dynamic between basketball players and football players, and can a football player be the greatest athlete of all time, or the greatest player of all time, as far as all athletes go? Tom Brady even agreed and said no. No, because I don't play defense. I don't even play one side of the ball. LeBron agreed. Everyone else seemed to agree, right? And I think that's a pretty fair point. Like, I legitimately think that no football player can be the greatest athlete of all time as far as impact they have on their team, because everyone only plays like one side of the ball or the other. You don't see mixing of that in basketball. It's much more. You have to, like, if you want to be a big superstar. A lot of times you want to be like a Kawhi Leonard. You have to be a two-way player. And you have to make that difference. But what do you think about that discussion, that whole comparison?
So I kind of see what you're saying with the whole football, like an offensive football player can't be the greatest athlete of all time. I kind of see where you're coming from, but then where do we establish criteria for that? Because then when you really think about it, dude, when you're establishing it as people who play both offense and defense as being the greatest athlete of all time, you're limiting these sports that these people play in to then determine who could be the greatest athlete of all time. Think about it. When you have sports, hockey, defenders really don't play offense. Baseball, you have guys that are two-way players, but a two-way player in baseball is someone who pitches and hits, not just pitches, plays the field, not just hits and plays the field. So when you establish that criteria, and I know who said it. It was LeBron, obviously, who said this. But when you think about that criteria, you're limiting it by saying that, okay, the greatest athlete of all time has to be a basketball player. That's the only thing that's why it's up for debate, because when you also think about who could be the greatest athlete of all time, you don't take into account individual sports. You don't take into account, stuff like tennis players, dude.
Well, I mean,
They, they,
I don't think that eliminates all other sports. I think soccer, you could be a good two-way player in soccer, and so here's the thing, and I just want to like refine, I guess, my point about it, because it does differ a little bit than LeBron's. I think that I think here's the thing. I think it does limit, right? Like I think the sports you play kind of does limit you as far as your overall standing as far as greatest of all time. Because Tom Brady, I think, is the greatest football player of all time. That's no doubt. Like everyone, Cliff Kellerman can keep talking. He's the greatest football player of all time. That being said, is he better than Jordan as far as an athlete? No. Is he better than even LeBron as far as an athlete? No. Is he better than Kobe? No. And I think and it's less so like his natural athleticism. I think as far as just that Tom Brady was hindered by the fact that he literally only played one side of the ball. And it's different even in hockey and other stuff like that. You have the ability to move around in hockey. In football, like Tom Brady's never out there on defense, like ever. He's not even out on the field when the defense is there. It's different in soccer when you have like players kind of switching off and switching on. So, and in basketball, so I think it might just be more so of a football specific thing, where it kind of limits you in football. Because other sports, I think it opens it up more. Lacrosse is another one, but no. That being said, as much as I love lacrosse, no lacrosse player is ever going to be the greatest athlete ever. Continue.
but I
Go ahead.
can't, but I can't, but I can't see it like that either, dude. Because then what you're doing is you're limiting even in those sports, dude, you're limited by the position that you play, dude. Because think about it, you can look at a goalie and something like that and say, yes, that goalie is great, but that goalie is not going to go down. Goalies don't score, and that's in soccer, that's in lacrosse, that's in hockey and everything like that. So even then, you could be limited based on stuff like that. That's why I'm saying the whole basis of that argument, what it's doing is it's basically saying that the best athlete ever has to be a basketball player, solely because yes, they do play both sides of the ball, but also basketball players, you can have a center. You can have a center that, protects the rim, so plays like lockdown defense, and then the center can come down and score. Hakeem Olajuwon, dude, you could have a guy like Hakeem Olajuwon who's going to go block 5 shots, get 15 rebounds, and then go down and also give you 40 points or something like that. So that's my only issue is with the initial argument itself, by saying that, you're saying that a player who doesn't play both sides of the ball automatically is disqualified from the argument, because then according to that criteria, you're saying that when you think about every other sport, you're saying that, well, you're basically saying that a basketball player has to be the greatest athlete of all time based off of just how the game is.
That's I think that plays a part in it though, don't you think? You look at football, dude. Like as great as some of a lot of these players are, when you talk about the conversations about the goats of football, most of them are quarterbacks. Nearly all of them are quarterbacks. Tom Brady, John Elway, Johnny Unitas, Peyton Manning, all these guys, they're all quarterbacks. So I think in sports, some position it's just true. Some positions have more of an impact on the game than others. So I think that sometimes it is just kind of how it is, you know. And I think in the same vein that a quarterback is always going to be at a higher pedestal in football, like some sports just require you to do more during the game. You know what I'm saying? They require you to do
Yes.
more during the game. And football, if we're being real, like it does limit players. As great as Tom Brady is, and as great as the impact offensively he has on his team, it doesn't translate as much on defense as it would if he was playing like a sport like basketball or whatever.
See that, but then again, what I get what you're saying, dude. It's just I feel like every other sport does limit it, because then when you think about it, according to that criteria, unless you have a pitcher like a Babe Ruth, like a Shohei Ohtani, like a Jacob DeGrom, those are the only ones that can legitimately. And even then, dude, once baseball, because baseball next season is getting rid of pitchers hitting as a whole, they're going to be disqualified from that argument technically too, because now they're limited to just either
You,
pitching
you,
or
you
just hitting.
guys, you guys just lost your best hitter in Degrom.
But that's what I'm saying, dude. Because
I love the natural reaction you just like, oh shit.
but that's all I'm saying. That when we establish criteria like that, obviously the criteria plays a role. But do you think that though? Like, do you honestly feel like the greatest athlete ever has to be like? Because according to that criteria, the greatest athlete ever has to be a basketball player.
No,
And don't get me wrong,
I think I,
basketball.
I think you could put Neymar in that conversation too. You could put soccer players in that conversation. It's just I think, I mean, look, if we're being honest, soccer players
But they're
do.
limited by position. But they're limited by
So,
see
so
basketball.
even in football,
Hold
man,
it.
you're limited by position. I'm sorry, it's
Right.
true. It's just sometimes that's just part of it.
But then, according to that logic, dude, basketball is the only sport where you're not
No,
limited by the position.
so no, you can be limited by
Yes,
position.
they are.
You can be
Sure,
limited
sure
by
you get
position.
goalies, because
No, you,
goalies can use their hands. Other players can't.
so I mean, like you could point to like centers, dude. Like how many centers are there that are in the greatest conversation of all time, or power forwards that are in the greatest player conversation, even in basketball? You know, they're great. They're
Wilt,
great. You got Will,
Hakeem
right? I mean,
Olajuwon, guys like
even
that.
then, they're not in the GOAT conversation though. They're not in the GOAT conversation. Name the
Kareem.
players. Name the players who are in the GOAT. Kareem is one. Okay, I'll give you one. Kareem, but other than that, it's Jordan, it's Kobe, it's LeBron, it's like a lot of them are just a lot of magic. They're either they're point guards, they're shooting guards. They're not necessarily like a lot of those players. Like none of them played center, none of them play power forward. Like as great as Tim Duncan is, he's not in the GOAT conversation. As great as Dirk Nowitzki is, he's not in the GOAT conversation. As great as again, the list goes on and on. But you know what I'm saying? It's just I think sports just kind of has lended itself for so long to we just thought about sports like that for so long and all of these sports like these positions mean more no matter how great some of these other players at these positions are. These positions have more of an impact on the game and it translates easier and we can see it more easy. You know what I'm saying? That's why like defensive players in the NFL even they don't get the nearly as much respect as they should. Khalil Mack is a game changing, franchise changing player. He will never get the same credit as someone like Tom Brady or someone like Pat Mahomes. Same you can say with Aaron Donald in the NFL. Same you can say with someone like Patrick Beverly used to be in the NBA. But like you know what I'm saying? It's just how things are. I think it's just how we think about the game.
I think a lot of it. I think a lot of it has to depend on the sport too, dude. Because when you think about it, dude, every sport we just named is a team sport, with the exception of like maybe what, tennis. Tennis is the only one that's like, I think that's something that a lot of people have to take into consideration too. Is that like, an individual sport, I feel like the best athlete ever has to be a person whose success is not predicated on anybody else but themselves. So I feel like that should also be something that people note, like the Serena Williamses of the world,
Mm,
the Roger Federers and Nadals, everything like that, because
yeah,
there was even golfers, for example, dude. As much as people want to say maybe it's not the same physical rigor, it's not the same, they don't have to, maybe take the same body blows other people take. At the end of the day, the only person that impacted their performance and whether they won or lost was them.
that's
Nobody.
fair.
For example, dude, take LeBron. LeBron in the finals. He lost game one of what? The 2018 finals because of J.R. Smith.
Yeah.
That wasn't his doing. He lost because of somebody else. So that's another thing that people have to take into account too when they think about this debate.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we could go on about this for like hours, dude, because
Yeah.
it is like it's an interesting conversation. It's like a very like because there's a lot of layers to it. Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.